So our project and our presentation today is based on the Catholic Newman Association. We initially had plans before all the craziness of the COVID-19 virus and the pandemic and the quarantine in Washington and other states to do our project on the architecture of Greek Row and all the houses. But with being sent to online and Zoom, we weren't able to do that. But luckily, I am part of this organization, the Catholic Newman Association. So it made it easier for our group to do our project on this very all of a sudden. And now I'm going to pass it on to Noah to talk about the community aspect of this organization.
Right. So with the Catholic Church, community is a big focus no matter where you go, and that is definitely no exception within the Pullman community because what you'll find is that a lot of the students are parishioners at the Catholic Newman Association, and you won't find. Well, on average, you will find a lot more adults, perhaps on the weekend masses, but a lot of times, and this applies to most places in Pullman, is that you got to get a lot of the attention from these students, and that's exactly what this church does. They make sure that they are an important and loud voice in the community. Not only do they participate in daily masses and the Sunday mass, which comes with every church, of course, um, they encourage socialization within their own community, whether this be through coffee and donuts after the Sunday mass, or whether it be hosting something like a Friday dinner or the fish fry or a spaghetti feed, all which just intend to bring the community closer together, uh, just through simple means. And you can see this, it extends all the way through things that they host, such as Bible study. Bible study it's usually a randomly occurring event through the week. It's there's no set schedule to it, but the Bible studies, it usually is just religious banter, and I guess a lot of uh, trying to relate with students through religion, and that can be accompanied by food or by games or literally just general Bible study. But I guess the important part to take note here is that it's very student oriented, and you'll find that these Bible studies actually feature a lot of students leading the groups and trying to engage in conversation. These dinners are actually especially common too during the football season, and you'll find that if you walk by the Catholic Newman Association during a WSU home game, they will be throwing their own tailgater. And sometimes you'll find that they'll just be passing out food, or they may even try and raffle out a parking spot for another WSU home game. So that, I mean, obviously everybody knows the advantages of having parking in Pullman, so I don't need to say much about that. But straying away from that, uh, the Catholic Newman Association, along to further its community aspect, also puts on retreats, which select students go on to in hopes of expanding their faith and getting closer to fellow students. A lot of it is mainly meditation and focused prayer and self reflection, and a lot of it may not seem like it's self reflection may be huge with community building, but you'll find that the people that go on these retreats are often closer coming out of it than they were coming into it. And moving on from that, the current pastor at the Catholic Newman Association is Father Jeff Core, which is actually pretty interesting considering that I personally have a decent relationship with Father Jeff Core too, because he was previously the priest at my old parish in Spokane, St. Mary's Parish. And from my own personal experience and seeing that the way he behaves around students and around people in general, I can absolutely say that he is a great man. He is fit for the job, and I mean, he just makes for a fantastic priest, and he's very active within his own community. Watching him at St. Mary's was a big deal for me because I take religion pretty seriously, and to see that priests are practicing what they preach is really interesting. And Father Jeff is no exception. And I think that him being at WSU and being a priest for the Catholic Newman Association is absolutely the best move because he's just his homilies are engaging, they're entertaining, And there's no doubt in my mind that what he's doing is for the people and for the benefit of the church and just trying to get closer to God in general.
So now going to the student leadership. So this student leadership, it focuses like any student leadership for any RSO, which is registered student organization on WSU. So they focus as a head council for their organization. The president, which has to work coincide with the pastor, he has to give all the directions, just as any president for any club in Pullman. The various other vice president positions, which are pictured here, work hard on very multiple scales, from fundraising to the free dinners on Friday, outreaching to other WSU students through the social media platforms and organizational parties like the tailgates. But the group not only has a chapel, they have a second floor of the building where they meet for Bible studies, where they meet for talks, they meet for pizza, they meet for soups, but they also have a lounge for studying where they have coffee, tea, snacks. And then, of course, they even have a little lounge that has a few couches and a pool table so that, if you wanted to take a little study break, you could take a nap or play a quick little game before you get back to your studies. So now here is the history of how this community came to be and how it currently serves the Cougar community. So originally, the Newman Association was in the Greystone Church, which nowadays, if you were to drive by this site, it is not a church. The building on the outside looks exactly the same, but it's now owned by Coug Housing. It was sold to them in 1980, and instead, the Newman Association moved their organization to a building called the St. Thomas More Student Center, which is basically just centered in front of all the action, all the fun, on WSU. It's centered between the fraternities Lambda and Data Chi, which is also near, some of the famous bars, the Coug and Valhalla. But, the community really felt like their move was a good transition because it made themselves just a block away from the center of campus. So it was really easy for students to go find them and, find a place where they could practice their faith in this organization. But definitely another historical moment, which was in 2015, was a church bell, which is pictured here next to a previous priest, where the organization themselves, they were able to fundraise and bring this bell, this new church bell, to be placed in the tower, which is pretty tall. It's almost one of the peaks of, Pullman, of the city of Pullman. And definitely, if you were to be on the WSU campus or in Greek Row, this bell does have a weird schedule. It rings from anytime to 6 a.m. up until 6 p.m. But, even though it is on a weird schedule, it does kind of like function as a, hey, you're almost late. So, when they're having their celebrations or mass, kind of like a warning to people who are slightly running late or, miss the alarm clock. But definitely, this bell is especially rung on Easter Vigil, which would be tomorrow, when they're kind of celebrating their faith, especially, and hoping that it reaches to others and that they understand what they practice. Now going on to these other pictures, which are from inside the church, from their practices of their faith, from the retreats that we talked about on the first slide. And they nicknamed their place St. Tommy's, which they have. They're normally scheduled masses on Sunday from 10 a.m. At 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. But they also have a mass that runs from Tuesday to Friday at 5:30. And these photos above really show the epitome of their faith and their beliefs. They seek to better their community, to better the lives of the students at WSU by what they practice. And they're also very fortunate with what they've been given, and they like to give back to the homeless community in Spokane and offer them food, essentials, in a loving conversation. But they believe that most of that was helped, or that they were given a lot of guidance by an organization called Focus, which is the Fellowship of Catholic University Students. this organization was able to help them expand their network, reach out to more students. This organization is all the members are so-called missionaries. They're previous graduates of college, so they've been in the game. They've met a lot of college students. So they know how to talk to them and how to spread their message that they are seeking to spread. Of evangelization, discipleship, and of course fellowship. And they also have other organizations that the Newman Association goes to, like Catholic conferences in Indianapolis and in Phoenix. But then, they also could go to like a mission trip, go abroad to like Spain or the Dominican Republic, where they can not only spread their message, but also help the less needy as they do in other parts of Washington.
Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it has caused many different changes to take place in the way that the community is run, and that has transitioned to Zoom instead of in-person meetings that would take place weekly, such as Bible studies or Mass. It has switched to online Zoom calls in place, and there are virtual masses that are recorded at 7 a.m. and then uploaded onto YouTube so that they can be watched at any time. This just goes to show that even in times of struggle, they have persevered and are still trying to spread their faith. And also, they give out Friday night dinners at no cost to those in need. And most of them are done as to-go deliveries, where one person usually delivers the plates to individuals that are in need, and have contacted them through Facebook Messenger to let them know that they would like. When the COVID-19 pandemic started, it caused the grocery stores to be emptied, and that resulted in many elderly not being able to receive the food and supplies that they need. So they reached out to the church, and members of the church went shopping for them and delivered the food to their house. And usually the Catholic Newman Association would visit Pullman's campus every Friday, spread awareness about who they are. They were usually found in the Cub, but due to the COVID-19 outbreak, it has caused them to switch to an online interface when it comes to reaching out to individuals and spreading their awareness. And they can be found on Facebook and Instagram as well.
2 times a month, the Newman Association holds a Spanish-speaking Mass. It's that the Latino community in Pullman is able to celebrate their Catholic faith. They sing songs in Spanish, and the sermon is also held in Spanish. This year, the community came together at 5:30 a.m. to offer songs and praise and worship, followed by a Mass in Spanish to culminate the day. The picture on the left here depicts the Virgin Mary, who is seen in Latino culture as a kind of mother figure, if you will, that comes to you in times of need. And it's just a big part in their Catholic ties to Christianity.